What made the high school legend become a legend? When I was in 11th grade, a guy a year older than me, in grade 12, saved a grade 9 girl from being abducted by her estranged father in the school parking lot. Her dad hadn't been in her life for years and had previously tried to take her from her elementary school, this being her first year in high school. I guess he tried again. The 12th grader heard her scream as her dad tried to force her into his car, and he ran over and got involved, apparently punching the dad before the dad got back in his car and sped off. Guy was a legit hero at the school. Our legend was actually the gym teacher. He became a legend by getting hit by a bus, getting up, getting on the bus and asking if everyone was okay. He ended up getting fired about 5 years after I graduated because he was caught soaking raisins in vodka and then eating them over the course of the day. Never changed, Mr. Lev. Edit. Looks like the raisins thing may not have been true, as someone else linked the nugget about him passing away just a couple days ago. We loved our rumors, so when someone told me that, I just believed it because it seemed like something he would have done. Schools tend to not honor people fired for doing something really bad after they pass away. I still can't believe he's gone though. The man was the Terminator. There was this girl Kelly who was very tiny, quiet, and seemingly well-mannered. Very unassuming girl. I don't think anyone knew who she was. Big school. Until she was escorted off campus by the police for stealing the credit card information of 14 students and going on a shopping spree. She disappeared for a year before somehow being allowed back in for her senior year. Instead of being a pariah, this girl somehow became a damn meme. Free Kelly posters would pop up with her mugshot on them. Her name was incorporated into chants used at football games like she was a weapon that could be used against the opposing team, and she was at the top of everyone's party invite list. Reminds me of this kid in middle school I knew whose last name was Dykes. He asked me to make a sign for him, so I made a poster with the words "Vote for Dykes" in big font. Then I put up the sign. The principal was furious when she found out and pulled me in to yell at me soon after. I sat there, having no idea what I did wrong while she gave me a lecture. I kept asking what I did wrong, and after being yelled at for a bit they eventually realized I actually did not know what I did wrong. As far as I knew, it was just a last name because I had never heard the word aside from that kid's last name. I did not know its other usage and they awkwardly had to explain it to me. My punishment was to destroy the signs I made and use the student's first name for future signs instead. Our history teacher was ex-military, and he was absolutely jacked. Like, this guy would bike 10 miles every morning to school, kept an ab roller in his classroom, would eat salads and beans for lunch every day, the whole shebang. Anyway, one day he gives our class a pop quiz. Jeff, the strongest, biggest guy in my class, goes up to him and asks, "If I can punch you in the stomach, and make you flinch, the entire class gets a 100 on the quiz." My teacher took him up on it. He prepared himself, and Jeff absolutely drills him in the stomach. Our teacher did not flinch. We still had to take the quiz, but Jeff went down in history as the guy who punched the teacher, and the teacher went down in history as a guy you don't want to fucking mess with. We had a gym teacher who was ex-military. Dude was a fucking monster at 6'5" and probably weighed in around 350 pounds. First month of school, a fight broke out in the gymnasium and he broke it up by lifting the 16 and 17-year-olds who were fighting up and apart by their shirts and then proceeded to carry them one under each arm to the principal's office. For a history class we met his father, who was still active military. He was even bigger than his son. They were both really cool guys. It's pretty stupid, but a friend wore a Walmart hot dog costume and for some reason everyone thought it was funny, started chanting "Hot Dog Kid," and he won the best Halloween costume award of that year. Next year he wore a penguin costume, and as he stepped up on stage he ripped it off to reveal the hot dog costume underneath. Everybody fucking lost it. Sadly, we have a rule that you can't win 2 years in a row, so while he didn't get the prize, we all knew who had the best costume that day. That is how the legend of Hot Dog Kid was born at my high school. Edit. I have been provided a picture of the costumes by the Hot Dog Kid. Halfway through my last year of high school, someone managed to put the ceramic toilet on top of our multi-story gymnasium. I have no idea how that feat was achieved. The school staff didn't know either, nor could they figure out how to get it off the roof once they found it. As a result, it remained on the gym for the remainder of my time there. I never found out who did it, but I will admire them until my dying day. 3 kids at my high school literally saved a baby's life by lifting up a car off of a child that got ran over and had its head pinned under the axle. The baby would have died had they not showed up. Those kids were hailed as heroes, and if I recall, Good Morning America offered to fly them to New York for interviews, but they declined. I'll see if I can find the article. Someone installed games onto the school's server. There were a bunch of N64 emulators, Bagel, and some other games, but then there were also LAN games that could be played against everyone in the school, including Counter-Strike and Halo. Sometimes you'd go on and there'd be no one. Other times there'd be 10v10 fight in Blood Gulch. It lasted at least 10 years, but don't know if it has been taken down since. Edit: this blew up way more than I was expecting. For those of you asking, this happened around 2008 in California. But I'm glad this has been experienced across the world and multiple generations of gamers. Some of the games you all had on your school computers were before my time, and some were just coming out on consoles. Thank you for the gold and other awards. I hope there continues to be ways around the system so that younger generations can always have this experience. My brother ran into the statue of our high school mascot with his truck at night, knocked the bulldog off its platform, then threw it in the back of the truck. It ended up in a pond out by our house. My brother, who was a massive wallflower in school, and never told a soul until he mentioned it to me over some beers in our 30s. No one ever knew who it was, but it was a big deal, and I remember tons of allegations, accusations, and rumors as to how our mascot disappeared. Never in my life would I have ever suspected my brother. Legendary in my eyes. Edit: thanks for awards. I'm avoiding saying too much about location etc. in the off chance anyone pieces it together. I like it as our own little secret that I'm sharing with a few thousand strangers. When I was a freshman, there was a senior on the last week of school who thought it would be legendary to streak on campus. He was 18. He was unable to receive his diploma on stage and had to register as a sex offender. Go Wildcats. Edit: thanks guys, for the upvotes and the awards. To add to this, I agree that his punishment was harsher than what seems fair. Taking away his ability to walk on stage in addition to community service would have been better. And in regards to where this occurred, this was in a suburban high school in Santa Clarita, north of Los Angeles. In 9th grade, one of our teachers got sick, so we got a sub, and this kid just starts talking in a strong Spaniard accent, like super well, and convinces the teacher he is from Spain. And he talks this way for 3 months. It was hilarious. And when another kid tried talking as a Spaniard too, he got really upset and accused the other kid of mocking his culture etc. Then when the year ended, we had to do a presentation and our teacher who got sick came, so the kid just nodded through the whole presentation while his group mates talked. It was hilarious. A buddy of mine did this same thing. He went an entire semester in one class only talking with an Aussie accent. He made up a whole backstory of being from Melbourne, too, and how his parents shipped him to the US to live with family since he was getting in with the wrong people in Melbourne. It was incredible. Then on the last day of class he spoke in his normal American accent. Poor teacher was so confused lol. This reminds me of a student I had a few years ago. His family came to the US and he was put in an ESL class. However, he spoke a little English and had a strong British accent. He gave us this whole story about learning English when his family moved to Britain for a time before coming to NY. Did zero work all year, in any class. Looked like he was about 35 years old. None of us teachers could ever get a hold of his parents to address his progress. Finally it's May and his older brother comes to school for a meeting. We find out that the accent is completely fake. He speaks perfect English and he just didn't feel like doing work all year. I still think he was 35. Long story short, jerk of a substitute wouldn't let a heavily pregnant girl use the restroom, and she had to go to the nurse and the doctors afterwards, enraging entire graduating class of the girl. Substitute quits after 3 weeks of open season on him, with him giving this speech of how we're all ungrateful and how we've made him regret ever wanting to be a teacher. According to my little brother, who is currently at that school, it's still talked about because the faculty put in a rule that a teacher cannot prevent a pregnant student from going to the restroom. This guy didn't become a high school legend until the last 10 minutes of our last day at school. I went to school with this kid for 5 years who, throughout all of high school, was bullied for the way he looked, considered a teacher's pet, generally unpopular with most of the school, etc. No one knew much about him at all, apart from the reasons he was, unfortunately, bullied and ostracized so hard. On the last day of our final year at high school, we had a leavers ceremony where teachers gave speeches, students were given awards, etc. Typical painstaking sit down for 2 hours while you watch all the accomplished sports kids drown in trophies ceremony. Out of nowhere, the principal introduced a performance from this kid, the notorious unpopular teacher's pet. We were all so confused. What could he possibly be performing? He got up on our school's theater stage as if he were to do a stand-up special. He then proceeded to perform a 10-minute-long Adult Swim-style sketch in which he did spot-on impressions of not only every single teacher in the school, in front of them, but the exam invigilators, the cleaners and even the fucking dinner ladies. This guy had fully produced and scripted an entire one-man sketch where he played all the characters being every member of staff in the school. For the very last time we would all be in that hall together. It was truly a then everybody clapped moment, as he got a standing ovation from every teacher in the hall, and all 120 students who relentlessly bullied him all these years prior. It felt like a massive middle finger to everyone who underestimated and ignored him. This mystery kid, who'd been bullied and ignored for his entire 5 years at our high school, became a legend within 10 minutes on the very last hour of the very last day of our time in that place. And then I never saw him again. Wonder where he is now. Not high school but elementary school. We had this system where if we read a book we could take a quiz online about the book and we'd get points for how much of it we got correct, and at the end of the year the students that had a certain amount of points got to go to this after-school party with water slides and food trucks, and it was a lot of fun. Anyways, this buddy of mine would read all these big, long, hard books, they were worth the most points, and take the quizzes, write down the answers and pass them around to other students, and by the end of the year, there were 50 students who went to that party, including myself, all thanks to him. Hope you're doing alright, James. This guy never lost a wrestling match, ever. Local, state, national champ as a sophomore. He was amazing. My high school had about 220 total students in the middle of fucking nowhere, Oregon, and this 98-pounds ball of muscle and hustle was getting TV crews to come out and film us practicing and shit. Ed wanted to add he was really cool guy and earned everything he got with the work he put in. Not a lot of guys I can say earned my respect in high school, but he certainly did. Year 10. Head boy has to be picked, England, and it's picked by vote. It's a year group of about 150 students, so we had the obvious, popular, well liked by everyone kids. We had the popular lads, the football captain and the sophisticated, obvious choice, me and my little posse of in-betweeners. I suggest fuck that. We pick one guy from the Forgotten Kids Club, let's call him Carl. This guy has pretty below average grades. Not a lick of athletic ability and his social abilities. Well, he's part of a group of kids that stays behind and spends lunch in the teacher's class because he got bullied so bad on the schoolyard. Carl found himself named head boy to his absolute shock due to the minority being united and the knobheads all split and vying for a position. He was a good dude as well, really committed himself to it. His grades improved. He became a better speaker. The lad glowed up considerably, and by the end of year 11 we had a whole army of people carrying him down the street for the final end of exams celebration. We would just sing his praises despite not knowing him that well, and it just caught on. Dick move, I know, but we did genuinely like him and thought it would be good for him. I like to take credit for suggesting the whole movement, but really it was just a testament to how one downtrodden dude can rise to the occasion and became an absolute fucking ambassador for an entire school. He won over everyone. Dude was impossible to hate. I was actually part of the legend that still carries to this day. I was one of the editors for our school newspaper, and as a whole, we decided to do an entire issue looking at the drug problem the school had. Our teacher was supportive of it and taught us how to do investigative journalism. After a month or so we had everything together and it was really impressive. However, when the administration found out, they put the kibosh on it real quick and refused to release funds to have it published. We were annoyed and decided to raise money to self-publish it. Thankfully, my mom was a prominent business owner in the community and bought an ad for considerably more than we charged typically. She was impressed with our work and thought people deserved to see the paper. With the influx of money, we got it published and distributed it before the administration could step in. We also dropped off copies everywhere we could. Naturally, the community was outraged that kids were shooting up heroin in the parking lot and between classes and that there was photographic proof of it too. We made the photos so you couldn't tell who it was. There was so much outrage that parents showed up at the next school board meeting and demanded answers. The head of the school board nearly had to step down and the principal was put through the ringer. After that issue, our funding was completely pulled and the paper was shut down. We continued to have journalism class, but it wasn't the same. We ended up submitting the issue and won all sorts of awards for it too. Now 16 years later the school still doesn't have a newspaper and the story as to why is still told. It's one of the few things I did in high school that I'm actually proud of too. So, legend in this case means fucking lunatic. He took the teacher's thermos from the back of the room, not knowing it was hers. He goes to the bathroom with the thermos, comes back with the thermos. She says, "Oh, you found my thermos. Great, thanks, just put it on my desk." He does, and then walks out of the room wordlessly. She opens the thermos in confusion. He shit in the thermos. We had a teacher who was infamous for not letting you go to the bathroom no matter what. I mean so much so that if you accidentally started your period in class, she'd make you wait. This happened. So there was a girl who we'll call Katie in class, who tended to be a bit of a troublemaker. Katie hated that teacher, because she'd begged to go to the bathroom and got shut down every time. At the end of the year, Katie asked one more time to go to the bathroom. The teacher said number. Katie asked another time 5 minutes later. The teacher said no again. 5 minutes after that, Katie asked again, but said that the teacher was not going to like what happened if the teacher didn't let her go. The teacher hit the roof and said that if she said one more thing, Katie would be sent to the principal. Katie shrugged and said this is on you, then, and pissed on her seat, right where she was. The teacher sent her to the principal, who called her parents, one of which was a urologist. Her father yelled at the principal. The teacher ended up in deep shit. According to other kids, she never denied another kid the bathroom again. Katie was a fucking legend. Similar to this, one time there was this teacher who wouldn't allow students to use the bathroom. No exceptions. You could be on the verge of exploding and he didn't care. So one time a girl was on her period and she needed to go to the bathroom ASAP. He wouldn't let her leave and just claimed, "You can hold it in, and this class is more important." So this kid reached into her pants, pulled out a bloody tampon, and walked across the room and threw it in the trash. She then opened her backpack, pulled out a fresh tampon, and reached her hand into her pants again. When I say this teacher was red in the face, I'm not kidding. He looked like a tomato. The best part, it was health class. I had a teacher in middle school who refused to let you go to the bathroom during class, would say you should be able to go during passing period, 3 minutes, and his class was across the school from everyone in the basement. Most girls tried to argue with him that a bathroom trip takes about 3 minutes already, let alone walking to bathroom and then to classroom. Finally one guy asked, got told no, and purposefully peed himself, because really, How has he not had other 11, 13-year-old boys willing to do so to prove their point? After that you bet he started allowing kids to go. Not sure if the teacher got in trouble or not, but he at least learned his lesson. The worst part is there was a bathroom was literally right down the hall from his room, so he could have even stood in the door watching the student to make sure they went to bathroom and back.